was interesting because, again, coming back to that agency model, I found one of the real disconnects that we'd often experience is as a marketing agency delivering a solution for providing leads to a business. And quite often there wasn't the interaction between the sales team and the marketing, the lead generation that we were doing. And as a consequence of it, for the businesses that allowed us to get involved with that whole process where we could step through and put together a system that really worked consistently, it worked great. But for a lot of businesses, they were just literally trying to get leads in by whatever method they could. And their follow-up process for converting those leads through from an initial touch point through to a sale were often skewed. So being able to tie that together in a fashion that makes sense from first entry point to when they start talking with you, right through to that finish point where they're ready to make a purchasing decision, having that really tied together makes a big difference. I mean, have you come across the same sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. It's like the age-old battle between marketing and sales. Each one wants to point their finger at the other. So marketing's driving shitty leads, and sales, well, marketing says sales isn't selling hard enough or doing a good enough job. So it always pits the two against each other because they have contradicting KPIs again. Sales is scored on obviously revenue primarily, but then amount of meetings and stuff like that. But if those meetings aren't equating into revenue, they're still copying the hit and copying the slack from management. Whereas marketing is scored on how many leads they produce, and those leads don't have any quality control. So it's not like they're scored on how much pipeline is produced. They're scored on how many contact details can you get into our database, which then leads them to doing activities such as gated ebooks and things like that into market, so they can just collect a database of phone numbers and emails of people that don't want to talk to sales, to then hand over to sales, to then get sales to do sales. So then sales end up speaking to a bunch of people that don't want to talk to them. They then blame marketing, and marketing says, oh, well, we gave you the leads. So like incentive structure and KPI structure is just backwards. So that getting that alignment between the two parties, or ideally sales potentially being able to generate their own pipeline, it would be the first step. But then understanding that just because even if you are utilizing an ebook or driving some low intent leads, MQL leads, understanding that just because they've put their hand up to get a piece of information doesn't mean they've said, I want to buy. And if you then go in with an aggressive sales approach of, well, we do this and we do that, we can help you do this, automatically their walls go up, sales resistance goes up, because they're like, oh, well, I'm just speaking to another salesperson, I don't want to talk to them, and then you've blown the chance. Whereas if you understand that you still at that point have to create some demand or manufacture the demand so that they raise their hand to say, hey, yeah, what you guys do is actually quite interesting. I want to have a chat with you about how you can help me solve my problems. If you can't get a prospect to that point, and you just try and start selling from the get-go, which a lot of sales organizations do, then you're only really speaking to that top 3% of the market that are already problem aware and looking for solutions, and you're going to burn 97% of the market.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting because the one thing that you are being clear on is that you really do need to focus in on having a sales process that you can follow consistently. But what you're really talking about there also is the pre-works that go into play to make sure you're positioning yourself as a trusted advisor to support them through the process of solving the problems that they've got in their business. And taking that approach and having a system that can, I guess, take them again from that initial step of having an introduction to who you are and how you can potentially solve their problem, right through to that putting together a specific tailored system that's actually going to solve their exact problems, and having a process that takes them from that not knowing you at all to accepting you as a trusted advisor and the person they're going to buy from. So
yeah, definitely. And I'm not saying you need to just sit there and wait for people to say, oh, hey, I want to buy your stuff. Obviously, you need to be proactive in sales, and you need to drive your own pipeline, move people through stages and move people through steps. But the mindset around that is probably the key difference, in that you're not driving them through just so you can hit a number. I'm not trying to push you into a meeting so I can hit my meeting KPIs, because if I don't hit my meeting KPIs, my boss is going to fire me. I'm moving people through the stage where they're at. and speaking to the buyer at the stage that they're at. If I haven't uncovered a problem, like if I obviously, and you know, a lot of scammers and cold call centers do this approach where they just call and they try and, Paul, do you want to buy this latest investment vehicle? It's getting X amount of percent every single month, blah, blah, blah. People have been called and scammed by those sort of centers for years. So especially in B2B sales, when you're dealing primarily, depending on what sort of tier of the market you're going after, with potentially C-suite executives, managers, people that are experts and knowledgeable in their field, if you go in with a old school 1980s sales approach, like Wolf of Wall Street style, you're breaking trust, you're showing you're not an expert, you're showing you're just a salesperson, and you're devaluing yourself in the eyes of the market and the eyes of the prospect, which ideally a B2B sales career, your career should be getting easier as you progress, because you're building networks, building relationships, to the point where 5-10 years into your career, when you've got something new that's a solution, you can go, oh, this solution would be perfect for Paul. Hey, Paul, I've got something for you. And that trust has already been built throughout the career for me to just call you up straight away. Whereas if you just keep slamming people in the market and being like, and selling crap, essentially, you'll never build a reputation, never build a career, you'll never build expertise in a specific field, and you'll just never have that relationship. So your sales career is always going to be a grind.